Welcome to Talking Points. I'm Esme Murphy. Who is going to win the Minnesota governor's race and the U.S. Senate race? The clock starts right now, with endorsing conventions the last week in May, the primary on August 11th, and the election on November 3rd. Let's talk about the Minnesota governor's race. Yes, it looks like Senator Amy Klobuchar, with her record of winning statewide elections by double digits and her comfortable $1.3 million of cash in the bank, will help get her the DFL endorsement. She does seem to be the prohibitive favorite. The Republican endorsement for governor, not as clear. You have Minnesota House Speaker Lisa Demuth running against MyPillow CEO and Trump associate Mike Lindell, and businessman Kendall Qualls. Then the U.S. Senate race, both the DFL and GOP have contested endorsing conventions. On the DFL side for U.S. Senate, progressive Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan is facing off against the more moderate representative Angie Craig. While Flanagan says if she loses the endorsement, she will drop out of the race. Craig says that she is not going to abide by the endorsement, and she has said all along she will go straight to the primary in August. There's a similar situation over on the Republican side for U.S. Senate. Former Navy SEAL Adam Schwarzy is running against broadcaster Michele Tafoya and basketball player Royce White. To sort this out, I'm using my call a friend option of twice here with Republican analyst Amy Frederiksen and DFL analyst Abou Amara. We're going to start with Abou. Abou, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with the Senate race because it looks like Representative Angie Craig isn't even going to go there to try and get the endorsement.
Well, look, that race was always going to be kind of a Texas two-step, if you will, right? Yeah. There was going to be the first step of the endorsing conventions and going into the primary. Peggy Flanagan has shown her strength organizationally with the delegates. I think she's probably favored to win that. And then going into the primary, the question's going to be, can she raise the money necessary to go up against Angie Craig, who has shown herself to be a financial juggernaut?
Right, and she's got a lot of money. And so they will face off in that August primary for the chance to run against the Republican nominee. The endorsement process there also muddled with Schwarzy running against Tafoya and also Royce White, who ran last time as well and did not do well. What do you see there?
Yeah, I'm looking for two things. So first is Michele Tafoya is nationally known. She's been broadcasting on TV for decades. She's a well-known commodity. Does that translate into delegates, or is she seen more as kind of a swamp creature, and I mean support from Washington, D.C., where a lot of her support is going to come from, or are the delegates going to say, you know what, we're going to go in a direction with Royce White as they did last time around?
Right. Or Adam Schwarzy.
Who's in the middle, exactly. Naval guy, got a good record, but let's see if there's space for him in that race.
I'm hearing that Michele Tafoya has not done a lot of work with delegates. Obviously, she's got the name recognition and the money, which will do well in the primary, but just heard that, and that Adam Schwarzy is making a surge. We'll see.
We'll see what happens there.
All right. How about the Democratic governor's race? I mean, Amy Klobuchar, I guess it's a good thing to be Amy Klobuchar right now running for governor. She's in pretty good shape, isn't she?
She's in great shape, and it's not an accident that nobody's running against her. It's because she's shown herself to be the most strong politician in modern recent history in Minnesota. And so it's really a coordination for her, but I think it's also an introduction for her to the delegates as she pivots more towards the electorate at large.
Right, and she seems very focused and very kind of almost not nervous, but she just seems very, very focused on this and working towards getting it. Obviously, she's going to get the endorsement because no one significant is running against her.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about the Republican race, because I think this is so interesting. You've got Lisa Demuth, the House Speaker, who just came off the session that some people say accomplished something, others say it didn't. You've got also Mike Lindell, the Trump associate, and you've also got Kendall Qualls, a businessman who's lost a couple of races before, but he has put a lot of time and effort into running this race. He's been running for 2 years, made contact with a lot of delegates. How do you see that?
I'm seeing this race as is Donald Trump's ability to impact races across the states. Is it going to continue here in Minnesota? We've seen it in Texas, we've seen it in Kentucky, we've seen it in Louisiana, where Donald Trump steps in and chooses between Republicans and the base follow him. So will this be a continuation here in Minnesota?
All right, well, that's one of the questions you anticipated my next question. Donald Trump, he may be the most important figure here. I just took a look at his latest approval ratings, about 39% to 56, 39% approved to 56 or so disapprove. Yep. Yet he continues to knock out these wins in these primaries, solidifying his base. Do you see him jumping into Minnesota?
Well, he kind of has, right? He said Mike Lindell is someone who he really likes, he really supports. He's all but endorsed him. And so I'm wondering, does that translate? Do those words translate to the delegates who, remind you, that's a sliver of the Minnesota electorate, right? Donald Trump may not be popular overall, but if you look at the base of the Republican Party, he's still very, very popular, and I expect him to have an impact on Saturday.
All right. Well, for what it's worth, Mike Lindell says that Donald Trump has not endorsed him, but he has said he'd like to see
very nice things about him.
Very nice things about him. Lisa Demuth really seems like somebody who could really make a run for it. She's very bright, determined. She's made the best out of a difficult situation at the legislature. How do you see that?
There's a tale of two stories with her. So on one level, she's obviously talented. She's obviously smart. She's amassed great power at the Capitol. And at the same time, I think she's stuck with some delegates who are going to be frustrated that certain things maybe didn't get done or there wasn't enough pushback. And I wonder if fraud, ironically, may become an issue at the convention. People saying, if you're the most powerful speaker, why couldn't you stop some of this fraud? I imagine some of those arguments will be made by some of the folks pushing back against her.
And in terms of fraud, let's go back to Peggy Flanagan, who's running for the U.S. Senate. Does that come back to bite her? Because so far, it really has not tarnished her. She's been Tim Walz's lieutenant governor for 8 years now.
Look, there's no doubt Tim Walz has taken the brunt of this, and he's kind of fallen on the sword, if you will. But if Peggy Flanagan were in the race, there's no doubt Republicans would seek to resurrect that issue and make it something that they can talk about in the fall campaign.
All right. Thank you so much, Abou. We appreciate it.
Joining us right now, Republican analyst Amy Frederiksen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Esme.
All right. The big endorsing convention, obviously one of the biggest races, the governor's race. What do you see coming out of the Republican endorsing convention?
Well, this has actually been a race where we have some, good quality candidates, a couple that have run before that like Dr. Scott Jensen, who ran and lost, and a couple others that I don't think have a lot of oomph behind them. But, between Kendall Qualls and current Speaker of the House, Lisa Demuth, we have some great candidates in the race. Interesting that the folks dropped in when they thought they would be running against the current incumbent governor, Tim Walz. And then in January, Tim Walz jumps out, Amy Klobuchar jumps in. I think that would have been an interesting potential calculation for some folks, but maybe not. So the other thing important for people to understand about the endorsement is Republicans, not Democrats. The endorsement is like a party stamp of approval. You don't have to abide by it. There's a primary in August. But in the Republican Party, the endorsement has really mattered. Even former Governor Tim Pawlenty, who did not get the Republican endorsement, did not win in a primary, despite having all that name ID and a lot of money. Jeff Johnson, who was the endorsed Republican, won that primary. So it's just in the Republican Party, it holds a lot of sway. Let's say that.
Well, let me ask you, a lot of people know who Lisa Demuth is, and of course, Kendall Qualls is a businessman who's run for offices before and not won. We have Mike Lindell there, who obviously is known for his association with President Trump. Your thoughts about him, because he said he is not going to honor the endorsement, that he's going to go on to the primary, or certainly indicated that.
Yeah, he certainly has. I don't know if that's real or not. Look, Mike Lindell's got some name ID and maybe money, but that's unclear too. I'm not sure he's going to be willing to spend. You would have to spend millions of your own money in a primary. I just think that's doubtful. I think that he likes the press and he likes to talk like he's running for governor, but I don't see him as being the big factor in this. But if he does run in a primary, that kind of gives the nod to almost any Republican candidate to run, because why not? If there's a primary, you might as well jump in.
Some early polls showed Kendall Qualls, some straw polls showed Kendall Qualls in the lead, but a lot of people that I've talked to really think that Lisa Demuth is going to get it. What is the view of her in Republican circles, and do they think she can win against Amy Klobuchar?
Yeah, I think generally very positive, right? She's well liked. She's super smart. She's really had, I think, given the very, very difficult 67-67 split in the House, right? It's a dead even tie, something we haven't seen this since the 70s. She's managed as Speaker really in a very strong way. She's shown up at the table. She's been pragmatic when she needs to. She gets a deal done, but she's held really strongly to, not increasing taxes and other things that I think benefit her. So I'm really watching those two. In my opinion, Kendall Qualls, who ran last time, came very close in the endorsement, didn't quite make it, and Lisa Demuth. Those are the two front runners for me for the GOP. And by the way, also, Lisa Demuth is really working. Her team, a lot of mailing TV ads already. Like there's a lot of action over there. So that will be interesting.
Why don't we talk about the U.S. GOP Senate candidates who are in right now, and then you've got another scenario that is very interesting. But the three that are in for now, the big ones, Adam Schwarzy, Michele Tafoya, and Royce White. Your thoughts about that race?
Well, the big name there is Michele Tafoya, right? She's got a national profile, super well known, really able to raise cash. So will she pull this out? Yeah, what you and I were touching on before is you said that we don't know the order of endorsement, right? We don't know if they're going to endorse governor first or U.S. Senate first. And I've gone to multiple state conventions, and it's always a little bit of a surprise. We never for sure know. Like, I'm always like, oh, we're endorsing that first. If they would endorse the governor first, it would be interesting to see if anyone that is running for governor that didn't get the endorsement might jump over to the U.S. Senate race. Like things during a convention can get kind of quirky. And I'm not hearing campaigns talk about that. I'm hearing very strong campaigns saying, I'm running for governor, I'm running for U.S. Senate. But in the heat of a convention, things can kind of move around. And I'm hearing like delegates talk about that as a possibility.
You're talking about it, and specifically which candidate are they talking about?
Well, not even specific candidates, but like, should someone, like the governor's race seems to have sort of a plethora of a good, or at least additional, right? Like, oh, I really, really like Kendall and I really like Lisa. Maybe if, one of them gets the endorsement, the other might run for U.S. Senate. Things like that can happen in sort of the heat of a convention, but the campaigns are not talking about that. They're very frank.
Michele Tafoya, you're absolutely right. Everybody knows her, great name recognition, and very poised, great speaker, very charismatic. But she's not your typical Republican candidate in a number of ways. And one of the biggest is that she is pro-choice through the first trimester. What does that do at a Republican endorsing convention?
Well, the impact on the endorsing convention, on any convention, right? These are the party faithful. So in past years, that would have been a big deal. It's interesting. I'm not hearing a ton about that, Esme. And I think in part that's because of the Supreme Court decision. And I think that's in part because of Donald Trump, right? He's been on the issue less like dogmatic. And so I think that's not as much an issue.
Well, Amy Frederiksen, always a pleasure. We'll see. You think it could get a little wild up there?
It could be very boring. It could be, but I think the governor's race is a bit of a, we'll see. And you never know.
In any of these races, if one candidate doesn't hit the threshold of 60% of delegates, there is no endorsement, and all the candidates likely head to the August 11th primary. And that does it for this edition of Talking Points. As always, email me with comments and suggestions at esme@cbs.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Esme Murphy, WCCO News.